I actually fought him before. Multiple occasions actually, so we punched each other before. Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Gerald, and today I have...
Harish from Millennium Institute, Year 3.
Yes, and I filmed this video to share more about Harish's most recent performances in his exams and basically share the methods of how he managed to achieve such feats for himself. So to begin with, can you share with us how you've been faring for your exams throughout this entire year ever since we started 2026?
I think since 2026 started, math has been one of the easier subjects in the sense because of A1 Math Academy. I think my main problem with math before this year was the lack of practice. And I really like the fact that A1 Math Academy basically summarized the topic within the first 30 minutes or so. And apart from that 30 minutes, everything else is just practice, which is something I felt like I needed. So I think since the start of this year, since the start of me coming to A1 Math Academy, the practice was the one that was really lacking. So after doing that, I think my exams gradually got better as well. Even the latest exam that I took, which was my class test 2.
And just to share with you all, be very transparent with you all about the numbers, can you share with them your results for the first test this year and then the subsequent class test?
My first class test, I got 28 upon 30. And then the second class test, I got 29 upon 30. Yeah.
Yes. And just for your information, Harish is in year 3, so I have been covering all the statistic topics, primarily S1 to S6. And in the most recent class test, he was basically tested his S1 to S4, right? S1 to S4, yeah. So we are only left with 2 more topics, which we have already covered in class. So can you describe to us, right, actually your journey with H2 Math in the first 2 years before officially coming in and me teaching you, right? What was your experience like with H2 Math as a subject, and how you managed to sort of survive the first 2 years with this subject?
I think for Millennium Institute, the first year in math was mainly on vectors and the basic graphical transformations. So I think the first year, apart from the graphical transformations, my area of difficulty was mostly on vectors, because even though the topic wasn't really that hard to understand, the questions that they asked were quite intuitive and hard to understand at sometimes. So year 1, I mainly struggled with vectors, but then in year 2, I felt like I got a grasp of H2 Math because, in my opinion, math was I mostly like the calculus part of it. So the whole of year 2 was integration, differentiation, and Maclaurin series. So I was doing a lot better for year 2. But then I think towards the end of year, I realized that since everything was tested from year 1 to year 2, my year 1 topics were still quite weak. So my end of year exam for year 2 wasn't that well done. But then I think at the start of year 3, I realized that stats was quite easy to understand. And I think I also realized that for H2 Math, that's probably where people rack up the marks. So I think I need to get my fundamentals a bit more cleared up so that the next exam that's testing on everything else will probably be better.
Definitely. So actually, can you share with us the main difference between how you attend classes in school, right? Your tutorial classes, your lecture classes in school for H2 Math versus when you attend here the classes that we have here, right? If there's any, what's the main differences in the approach that the way the class is conducted that kind of helps you in your learning a little bit better?
I think in school, mainly how they teach the lessons or how they approach a topic is, first they teach the basics of the topic, and then they make you do questions on the basics. And then they go on to harder questions, and then they make you think about how the basic fundamentals can help you solve the harder questions. But I feel like that's a bit hard for me, or any student in my class, because when we go on to harder questions, sometimes they make you do it, and then if you don't know how to do it, when they go through it in class, they just end up showing you the answers and then make you understand through the answers. But I think A1 Math Academy, the way they teach it is they teach you everything at the start. So there's nothing that you don't know. Then once you start doing questions, you just apply what you've learned, which I feel like is better. And those harder questions, there are certain approaches that you can use, which is also taught here. And in school, it's more of like just showing the answers. So I think it's a lot more easier to understand here. Yeah.
Okay, great. So just as a side note, right, since probably students or parents were watching this, and maybe some from MI as well, maybe in the future who are watching this, Harish is one of your seniors who has been doing very, very well in his academics. So can you share generally, right, with the viewers who are watching this, how you prepare for your exams, your math exams, the resources you use, and any tips of like a piece of advice that you have for them?
I think before coming to A1 Math Academy, my way of approaching exams was quite bad because I used to like mark last minute, and I think math is one of those subjects where you can't really do that because I always used to like see my friends reading through the math textbook before math exam. Then we know that like I kind of already knew they were gonna like fail the exam. Yeah, so I think my main approach to like doing the topics was like running through the topic at first and then spamming questions. But I would always have like very little time because I would be mugging last minute. Yeah, so I think the approach to exam now is more of mugging all the way, a lot of questions, which like makes me like when I sit in the exam, I have like no anxiety at all. So when I approach the questions, it's like more of just doing what I did in class. So it's quite like easy, yeah.
So it's basically like you do so many different questions during practice, right? So like when exam, there's no chance that you never do that type of question before, right? That analogy, yeah, I think that definitely works the best lah. So for some background, right, for those who are watching, actually I know Harish for many years already. Before he came in as my student, I actually fought him before. Multiple occasions actually, so we punch each other before. I'm gonna put a photo on the screen over here. But yeah, we go way back. So, you know, when Harish decided to enroll this year, it was very different for me because I'm very used to seeing him in a different context, right? So now teaching him math is completely different. But I would say that Harish has always struck me as someone who is a very fast learner and also very hardworking. So naturally, when we were doing karate, he learned very fast, right? And then now he's a black belt also after many years. Now that I'm teaching him math, I can see that his hard work and his ability to learn things quickly on the spot, right? From karate, it naturally transfers to math as well, which I thought was is something that always strikes me very hard whenever I think about Harish. So lastly, the last question I have is, apart from just learning math, right? What is something else that you enjoy about our classes here, or like the interactions that you have with the people over here?
I think, like you said, since we go like really long back, I think apart from like going to a normal tuition center and learning, I think the interactions you have with your tutor is like really important. And since I already knew you from quite a while, I think it's quite easy to like get into my comfort zone here, which I think is really important when I'm like doing work, because I can approach you for any questions I need, if I need. So yeah, I think that was the main part for me, and I think the way you approach questions is also like really like friendly. So it's like really easy to ask you for like doubts. Yeah.
Awesome. So thanks so much for your time, Harish. With that, we've come to the end of this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.